Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 14.5 Beta 5. This is available to developers and soon to public beta testers. Usually by the time I post this video it's available, but at the time of recording it, it's not. So I'll be sure to update you on that. This came in at 254.1 megabytes on my iPhone 12 Pro Max, and it was similarly sized on the iPhone 6s Plus, a little bit smaller than that, as well as the iPad Pro 12.9 from 2020 and iPhone 11. Now, as far as this particular update, Apple also released a bunch of other updates for iPad with iPadOS 14.5 Beta 5, as well as watchOS 7.4 Beta 5, tvOS 14.5 Beta 5, as well as macOS Big Sur 11.3 Beta 5, and they also updated Keynote, Numbers, and Pages apps as well. So a lot of updates rolling out today. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number. So we'll go to Settings, then we'll go to General, then About, and you can see the build number is 18E5186A. And this particular build, being an A at the end, is very similar to what we had last time. It's just a revised version of that. So they've updated that a little bit. Now, as far as new features are concerned, there is a new modem update in this particular build. So if you were having connectivity issues, whether that be with your iPhone 12 Pro Max or an older iPhone 6s Plus, hopefully it's resolved for you. There were some issues specifically with the newer phones switching between 4G and 5G on, say, T-Mobile, for example. So if you were having those issues, be sure to check it out and see if you're still having it after this update, as hopefully it resolves that switching issue. Now, other than that, as far as new features go, if you go into Settings and then you go to General and then Software Update, go to Automatic Updates, and you'll see it says Install iOS Updates. This has been reverted back to what it was like before. So on the left, I have iOS 14.5 Beta 4, and on the right, I have Beta 5. If we go to the same Automatic Updates, you'll see before, with Beta 4, they changed it to Install Security Updates. Now they've reverted it back to just Install iOS Updates. So maybe we won't be able to install security updates separately, but based on this, they've changed it back to what it was before. So with Beta 5, maybe they've abandoned that for now. Maybe that will carry over to iOS 15. Now, as far as anything else in this, there are no more physical changes that you can see in this beta. That means we're getting very close to a final version, and it's fixing a lot of bugs. In fact, in Apple's notes, they've said there are no new release notes for this beta software update. So whether or not they've fixed any additional things, I mentioned issues with lag and freezing, and in particular, I had quite a few issues with Bluetooth before, and that was all a problem. Hopefully that's fixed now with connecting to AirPods, for example. That was a big issue for me before, and it seems to be even more sensitive to the HomePod as I bring it closer to, say, a HomePod when playing music. So I'm not sure if you can see this. Let's see if we bring it close. So we'll bring the HomePod up, and you'll see it's nice and sensitive to that. Now, somewhat oversensitive from my experience so far today. So you'll see I'm quite a ways away. I'm about a foot away at this distance, and as I come closer, it pops on the screen. I've seen this pop up 2 to 3 feet away this time. So this feature of handoff to the HomePod is nice, but it seems to be very sensitive. I'd like a way to actually adjust that. Now, as far as green tint is concerned, I know a lot of people are wondering about that, and they did fix the initial issue when you boot up your phone, for example, and it had a lot of green tint. Some people said you could see that on the settings page. I've not been able to see that even in lower darknesses. Let me turn off the lights here, and I don't see any green fringing around the outside edge of anything, and that's where people saw a very green tint to begin with. And so with that, I don't really see that issue that people have experienced. I haven't experienced it myself on these phones, but some people have. So if you have that issue, we'll have to test that over the next few days, see if it's fixed that, as well as the HDR flicker issue that people were having. So other than that, there are no changes in this. Now, as far as iPadOS 14.5 Beta 5, well, with Beta 4, it was actually pretty solid. I had no issues as far as speed, scrolling, any lockups, any crashes, or anything like that. My major issue with the iPad has been battery all along. And as I've said before, I plan to completely wipe this device should it keep having that issue, but I'll show you what it was like over beta 4, it will take a few days to know what it's like with beta 5. So if we go to the last 10 days, for example, you'll see it was last charged yesterday to 100% at around almost 1 p.m., 12:56 p.m. And I only had 2 hours and 22 minutes of screen on time, 52 minutes of screen off time, and another 25 minutes. We're down to 48% battery life. Now, to be fair, it did install an update without being on battery, so it still is using an excessive amount of power for the iPad. So hopefully that's much better. But as far as the overall experience on here, everything's basically the same, and the automatic updates are the same here as well. It just says install iPadOS updates instead of those security updates. So they've reverted that back to what it was before. Now, as far as battery life on the iPhone, let's take a look at the beta battery life with beta 4, and this hopefully will be improved with this version. It wasn't bad, but it seems to be getting better and better. So we'll take a look at battery health, and you'll see I'm at 100%, so no issues there, and the updates won't change this at all. They'll just remeasure what the physical battery is at. But let's go back, take a look at the last 10 days. And as you can see, depending on the day, it varies greatly. Some days I only had 2 hours and 11 minutes of screen on time. If we go back a few more days, I had 3 hours and 52 minutes of screen on time and used a little bit over 50% of my battery life. Based off this, I'm getting about 8 hours of screen on time with this phone. Although when I put it on the charger at night before I go to bed, I'm getting about 50% of my charge left over, maybe more. So this battery measurement, I'm still not sure is 100% accurate, but many people are saying battery life was greatly improved. And you can see this just popped up. That's from the HomePod. I haven't moved it closer or anything. It just popped up out of nowhere. So it's overly sensitive, it seems, in this particular update. But you'll see that battery life seems to be okay. Hopefully it improves even more with this update, but we'll know that in a few days when I do a follow-up. Now, as far as the overall performance of this version, I actually noticed it to be very smooth just as I was looking for changes and looking through the OS. It seems incredibly smooth. In fact, the frame rate doesn't seem to drop at all. It's just mostly very nice and smooth, no problems here whatsoever. Even on the older phone, after it was done rebooting and sort of doing its background tasks, it's still a little bit warm from doing that. You'll see I'll open music for the first time. I normally leave this for the video, but as I scroll through, it's nice and smooth. I don't see any stutter or lag throughout the OS, which is great. I did see that on previous versions. Let's go into settings, and you'll see it's smooth again. So it seems like Apple has resolved any lag or stuttering that was going on. With beta 4, I had no issues closing out of apps, for example, swiping to go home, or just closing them in general. There hasn't been any issues like that whatsoever for me. So it's been pretty solid overall. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Geekbench scores. And if we go into Geekbench 5 here, you'll see I scored 1,590 for single core, 4,085 for multi-core. This is actually a little bit lower than I had in the previous version, but this has been run right after installing the update. So a lot of the background information, indexing and things could still be going on. So if you take a look here, there's March 23 and March 15. It's a little bit lower in general, but it's not a big concern as it feels much smoother just using the OS overall, at least in my experience so far. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the benchmarks on all of these devices. From left to right, I have the iPad Pro 12.9 from 2020. In the middle is the iPhone 6s Plus, and on the right is the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And based on these scores on the iPad and the 6s Plus, it's actually about the same or a little bit better depending on which score you're looking at, single or multi-core, compared to the previous version, and that's right after installing the update. So if I give this a couple hours, run it again, it will probably improve quite a bit on all of these devices. So far I'm impressed with the overall smoothness, but this should just give you a general idea of what to expect if you're using these betas. So should you update to iOS 14.5 beta 5? Well, if you're already on beta 4, then I would say absolutely, or any of the betas, as you want to make sure you're testing this and seeing if it's improved anything for you. It usually takes a few days to know if your battery's improved, and it may have improved additional issues with green tint, for example, or any lag or issues you were having, saying closing an application if you were having that problem. So definitely update if you haven't already. However, if you're on iOS 14.4.1, the public version or an earlier public version, and you're looking to fix some issues you have, such as green tint, for example, I would not update until the final version is out. Generally, when you install a beta, it may break something else, so you want to keep that in mind. If you know what you're getting into with a beta, then absolutely you could install it, but just be prepared to revert back if you had to, and make sure you have a backup of your overall OS. Now, as far as when to expect the next version, well, Really, we expected iOS 14.5 RC or release candidate, and that was expected pretty much today, and it seems like we're going to have another week without that. So we could even go into beta 7, so we could have a couple more weeks of betas, meaning next Tuesday we could see the beta 6 even, or maybe RC. Generally, when they release RC, it means that they're going to release a public version within a week after that. So we could have an event in April, like many people are predicting, and we're still waiting for Apple to introduce WWDC 2021, which takes place in June. So we're waiting for all of that information from Apple to determine when this final version comes out. Since so many people were predicting today as an Apple event, that's why many people expected the final version out by now. But since that time has come and gone, it looks like April is when we'll see an event or some new updates as well. So I would expect another beta or release candidate next week, and then a final release within a couple weeks from now, and then it will be available to the public. So look for those. Now, if I find any additional features, I'll have a different video later in the week talking about more new features. But other than that, you can look for the follow-up usually around Sunday, where I talk about the overall experience with this, bugs you're having as well. So look for that later at the end of this week or early next week. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.